everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dance choreographer and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we're going to be taking a look at Shinee's Why So Serious dance version from the practice room. Very excited about this, as I am every single time I watch Shinee do any form of dancing. I've been really enjoying my time with them in this marathon, and I cannot wait to continue on in my Gen 2 thriving environment. This has been great. Now I know the choreographer is DEVIN, JAMESON, and so I wasn't able to find a demo of DEVIN doing this choreography, but I did find just a short clip of him dancing with others, of course, during the year that this came out, just to kind of understand his movement quality too, so we can help potentially tailor my feedback towards the type of aesthetic of the choreography is supposed to come across as. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and check it out. This song sounds like a 1990s animation theme song, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like that kind of era. Okay. Definitely get some locking influence. I didn't catch that the first time. Okay, I'm assuming DEVIN's in the front in the white. Very full. Yeah, so it looks like he makes some rock and bounce from hip hop and with a little bit of locking technique. But I wouldn't even give it, yeah. Yeah. fun. Now I'm curious about what Devin is doing in like 2023, so please hold. So I didn't find his work in 2023, but I did find this Galen Hooks inside look on Devin doing her choreo. And so for me, I thought what better way for us to really take a look at him as an individual than from somebody who has worked with him extensively. And for me, I have high respect for Galen Hooks anyway, so I'm very receptive and especially excited to kind of hear what she has to say about Devin.
So this is Devin Jameson. He has danced for Michael Jackson, Usher. He's one of the most accomplished dancers in the industry and has transitioned into cinematography. He's shot a lot of the videos that I've put on YouTube, and he's also a good friend of mine. And I was just so pleased that he took this class, which was to Rihanna's Love on the Brain. And there's only so much I can describe and demonstrate as a woman teaching a combo like this to try to explain the quote-unquote male version. And until you see someone like him do his interpretation, for the men in the room, it can be difficult to know what to do with a combo like this that is fluid, emotional, about heartache, sung by a woman. So I'm so happy that the other men in class got to watch his version and see that you can have technique and that you can be soft and fluid but also be masculine. You can see that he can travel. He's not afraid to use the floor and be strong. He's a tap dancer, so his musicality is so good. And for most people, the hardest part of my routines is the musicality. For him, it comes easily. He picks it up so quickly. He was one of my dancers when I choreographed for Neo on So You Think You Can Dance for Beautiful Monster. And that choreography was so hard, musicality-wise, traveling-wise, weight change-wise, and he picked it up like nothing. He has incredible body control. You can see that every single placement is intentional. I dance differently when I dance next to him. This version of me doing the combo is much different than the version I did when I danced with the two women, and I just kind of wanted to see what happened if I fed off of his energy. And the fact that this is documented on film when he doesn't take class anymore, he's a teacher himself. I barely get to see him dance, and I'm so happy that this is documented so that everyone else can see the amazing talent that Devin has.
That was fun. That was really nice to see. She did make a very interesting point, though. She said something, and this is something that it could be considered a hot take, but as a teacher myself, I kind of feel
I'm so happy
the need to reference
on
it.
Film when he doesn't take class anymore.
He doesn't take class anymore.
He's a teacher himself.
He's a teacher himself. Okay. I think I understand now. I originally took what she said as he's a teacher, so he doesn't take class anymore. But I'm assuming that's not the case at all. She's definitely an individual where it's like you have to always keep learning and keep growing. Because she's a teacher herself, so she understands that. Or she's more so, I would actually call her an educator than a teacher. An educator for me is you take a more holistic approach into teaching someone, not just giving them information. She sets somebody up for success and makes them more well-rounded as an individual within the confinements of the information given, not just teaching information. So there's a difference between an educator and a teacher, and I would consider Galen an educator. So for what I'm assuming what she's saying is that he is a teacher, he doesn't take class anymore, but he does more cinematography. So I'm assuming he does more, filming. And that's absolutely fine. So I don't think he's an active professional dancer anymore. I think that's absolutely fine. And a lot of people would be surprised. You really don't have a long timeline in comparison to a lot of other jobs, like professional work, to being a professional dancer. A lot of times that sweet spot is honestly 18 until about mid-20s, because the physical demand of what you're doing on the job, and you can get injured pretty easily too. You can be one injury away from your career being kaput in the professional dance realm. So it's very tricky. And I will say this too, 18 is I very strongly do use that as like your baseline, because a lot of people in America especially like to get around child labor laws, and so they would rather cast people in commercials and media that are 18 but can appear to look like a high schooler or a middle schooler, because there are people like that. And I would say KK Harris is a great example of somebody who's been able to be used in that way, because whenever you deal with child labor laws, you can't work them as long in America as you can with adults. So for me, I would say like a true like start to a career for most people would be 18. But you do have exceptions, of course. It just depends on like the virality of an individual. But nowadays, I feel like you can kind of get a wider pool of individuals, and there's more acceptance in the older and the youngers within that range that I gave you. So of course that's not the end all be all. I would say I'm speaking in terms of, let's say, the 2010s and the 2000s. That was kind of your go-to pocket of people. But here's the thing. I actually really love the fact that we got to take a look at this to help me understand Devin, and from more of so Galen's appreciation of him. And you can see why I like Galen, because of how she talks about him, or how she talks and articulates why she enjoys something or why she gives praise to someone. It is something that I can relate to, because that's how I talk. I mean, for me, I'm like, I'm going to tell you why this person is great, and I'm going to give you X, Y, and Z as to why, you know. And she's very respectful in what his accolades, and she respects him regardless if he's good now or as good as he used to be. No, I love, my favorite part about this was what she was saying about, I am so glad that he was here for class he was able to showcase and show the men in the room how to interpret this choreography in this way, because Galen understands her restrictions as a woman. You can be a woman to teach masculine movement, but there is a certain difference a lot of times in having a guy do it versus a girl do it as a man. And just like having a female do a man's choreography will hit different for me than a man doing a man's choreography. That's true. Like it is. You can't, we can pitter patter all day about the exceptions of that, but that's just in general. That's an in general true statement, truly. And you can see that even within more of the feminine styles like Vogue and whacking, you can see the difference there too. It's subtle, but it's there, and it hits different for people. And so I'm very appreciative that she said that. She's like, I'm appreciative that he was here to be able to, you know, with a female voice. Like she even talks, she understands the intimacy of the music, and that's why her musicality is hard. It's because she expects people to understand it to the intimacy that the choreography demands, and a lot of people professionally, it's something that you have to learn. They have to learn in these contexts, like, because in the studios, I know they're not learning it nearly as much. It's more of an exception. And you notice she said that he does tap, and with tap, it's like, okay, that's tap. Yes, great sense of musicality. Tap should not be the only style in which you grow within musicality. You should be able to grow that in ballet, in contemporary, and in jazz, and in street styles. You should be able to do that. So that would be something that I wish that there can be more people that we can appreciate that have a great sense of musicality, and it's not just because they took tap or not just because they took band. Other supplements for the choreography that is given. Does that make sense? I think that's just my in general note. Yes, we're not here for Devin, we are here for Shinee, but Devin choreographed for Shinee for the era, and I feel like this is a really fun little tidbit, secondary kind of supplement, kind of analysis that we can add on top of what helps with Shinee's choreo. So let's go back and take a look at Shinee. Okay, so whenever we saw Devin do it, especially like 2013, he was very, very full in his energy, right? And I like how this started. A really great, showcasing of the levels. And it makes sense if you think about it, like, makes sense why there's a really heavy Michael Jackson influence, at least in how the carriage is being brought about here in this case. It gives off more of that energy than anything. Do I feel like being honest, it did feel a bit of a regression in terms of how we were elevating a lot of our movement and performance quality. It did feel like we took a step back into like the adios phase, or into the, what was the other one? Not Love Like Oxygen, I wouldn't call it that. Like it didn't feel like I would have expected this in like 2011, but it's been a couple years, and there have been a couple routines that have really elevated. I'd say Dazzling Girl, elevated in terms of physical growth, and then what Tony Testa did with, Dream Girl, that was a really great elevation of movement presentation, I would say. But is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. I mean, of course you see a little bit of, really nice. I could definitely see there's more of that locking posture influence, but they're not doing anything remotely that's like, oh, they're doing locking here. Like, it's not locking genre represented. So I'm not saying that. I'm saying there is a little bit of influence based on how certain accents are hit. There is a locking presence involved. They're breaking, not breaking. They're popping off. They're enjoying their time. moving through the space. Yeah, bringing it down and then bringing it back up. Sliding it through. I like that choice. Ow! Bless it, having to go towards the back to make sure that we're not hitting anything. It's a little bit trickier. Yep, that boom and the boom. I really like that choice. It's fun. It's creative. I enjoy it. And sliding it through. I like that slide through and then have everybody slowly come up. So this part was actually really good. I'm not talking about the formations were regressed. I'm talking about Shinee's quality of movement presented gives the appearance of potential regression. But I'm not saying that's the case. And I'm not saying it's the choreography. I'm not saying of any of that. There's probably other outside circumstances that cater to this too. Remember, they're human. They're not robots. You know, you're going to have divots of like, ooh, this isn't like Sherlock, or this isn't like Dream Girl, or this isn't like Replay. You know, I do bring up Replay pretty often, but I do understand it was the debut track, and so that one carries a significantly heavier influence in how they come across in energy. So having this here, that boom, and here to the middle, yeah, bringing it through. I mean, it was a really great way to showcase. They're showcasing the features very well in different ways, which is nice in comparison to just from the center, which is good. Turning it through. Some are choosing to keep it more stiff. Some are choosing to really use the head. So, and I think that's totally fine. This helps me really understand Devin a little bit more. For all of this looks great. I think Devin would have gone a significantly more full for all of this, but also I feel like we are calibrating at the same time because they're seasoned enough now, because they debuted 08, it's 2013 at this point in time. Pretty familiar, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, so it's about 5 years. They're getting to that pace and space now where they have that implicit understanding of here's how we as a group are going to do the choreography. And is it going to be the way that Devin does it? Probably not, because Devin is a dancer. He's not singing at the same time in these cases like they are. So for them, they're already making the concessions choreographically, which may give that appearance of regression. But I know it's not that. It just appears that way. But it's because they are already calibrating their movement subconsciously into the space of everybody needs to be on the same page, because they need to be able to do this live. You know, they're performing or doing the dance practices with performing in mind. And I love that. Really great accent of just pulling that jacket and really showcasing that through, which is really good. Hitting it through, I love that. Dun, da, 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 and I really like that energy. It's great. Hitting it through. Yeah, once again, kind of hitting it to one side, hitting it to the other side. Hitting it through. I think for me, because a lot of the energy, we're not using our torso to showcase more range on a lot of the energy. That's why it can kind of feel like we're a bit muted in movement. But once again, it goes back to everything that I stated. So it doesn't bother me. I'm a human at the end of the day, just like they are, and I would rather them do this than really, really pop off in the dance practice, but then have to really regress in lives, because that can really lead people, you know, that can be very conflicting information too in terms of what's restricting for you. So I'd rather the choreo be this than the latter, right? So I like the slide, having everybody go in opposition. My note, though, I do wish for this, it doesn't require as much lung capacity or lung demand or the chest demand, but using the hinge, just like you saw, yeah, and that's Minho, right? So as a slide, I think how he hinged it, I really liked how he went from one direction. I think for them, if they all chose to do that too, I think it would have read more clearly, and it would have been really nice to see. Yeah, and they're all here, boom, da-da-da-da-da. You know what else it is? I think it's also this. Here's why it may look regressed. Not just because of the movement and how they're executing it, but also the complexity is it's dropped. Yeah, it's dropped in complexity, but it's because it's a different choreographer, and this is his interpretation of the track, and there's beauty in that. You know, it's not like we're looking at the same choreographer, and it's not like we're looking at Tony Testa and we've seen a regress Tony Testa in this era. No, it's a different choreographer with Devin. This is what he feels the song calls for, and that's absolutely fine, because SM trusts him and Shinee trusts him, and this is what we have, and it looks great, right? But the reason why it may look regress is because sometimes you look at groups and you see that they work with a particular grouping of people. You have 17 that works with Jun, which is one mil, but then you also have Dreamcatcher. They have their go-to people, and who's the one that I just looked at? It was AT's BB Trippin', right? So I think like you can tell when AT does other groups, like other choreographer stuff, it doesn't hit right. But then once they're with BB Trippin', they have their go-to group. It works great. Just like their stuff looks like very familiar and implicit with Reno's stuff because that was a lot of their discography has tailored to that. And that's great, you know? This is a different choreographers with a different movement quality. So maybe the fullness that he was presenting, you know, there's a lot of, you know, he's going off the influence of his own probably past experience of being a dancer and what has worked in the discographies for himself. And I think that's beautiful, you know? So all that to say, that's why it may look and give the appearance of regression is because they're hitting more of the accents and they're not syncopating it nearly to the degree that you saw in Sherlock or that you saw in Replay even, you know? Ran it through, but they have still really great visuals. I do see the progression and I do appreciate the formation choices. They're showcasing their features in a different way. I love that E-spin. That was cool. Yeah, da-da-da. That's a Gen 2 hat if I ever saw one, for real. I saw that all over 2NE1 stuff. Hitting it through. Switching it through, ding, ding, and boom, boom, boom. Like, even there, like, with Sherlock, they had dun, 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 dun. You know, like, they progress even these types of little moments. But here, they just kind of keep it. It's little details like that. Nothing wrong with it. Yeah, digging it through. Boom, da, da, doom, da, da, boom, da, da, doom. It's nice to see that. Nice little groove, and boom, 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 boom. Once again, writing halves and whole counts. You know, they groove on both sides, and it makes it very practical to learn. So if you were to learn any Shinee choreo, this is a pretty good one that you could do if you wanted to go for like an upbeat one because it does use like that drill ambidextrous kind of groove sides. Now, is it easy? I mean, I would say it's pretty intermediate, but it's not the most difficult one in the world, and I know that's not what it comes across as. But I like having the front swing down, having my back stay up. That was a nice choice. And it did feel like we missed something over here. But that's okay. You know, spacing could improve a little bit more. Switching it through. This has Thriller influence. I'll put it that way too. Thriller, Michael Jackson, because of this move right here. This in Thriller. But also this right here really gives that kind of zombie undead vibes. It's giving Michael in that kind of concept, I think. And it could be very much a tailor to the concept. I haven't seen any of the music videos. So that's like, a lot of this could tailor to that as well. Yeah, really nice where they kind of have a little moment and then they go and they transition to other places. Yep. Da 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 da. Yeah, and they jump. Yep, they all just be like, hey, what's up? Yeah, awesome. That right there, that for me, I'm used to seeing, what is this? Like a whacking variant here. But right there, da 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 da, it gives that locking presentation, you know, that flamboyant, extroverted, give me five, snaps, you know, everything has a more gregarious kind of physical tone to it. And I love that. Boom, right there in display. That also, a little bit of a locking influence there too. And there's a little jazz split. Switching it through, ding, ding, and a ding, and the slide through. See with some of the connections, even there, that looked like a little Scooby-Doo. Boom. I think that section is what really gave a little locking to me. Switching it through. And then also after seeing Devin do his choreo from 2013, I did see a little bit of locking influence there. And I think I said that. A little backslide action too. Very Michael. So you are seeing Devin's, you know, you're seeing his background and his influence, maybe, which is probably why they asked for him. You know, it makes total sense because Reno does carry a lot of these overlaps. Turning it through. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Also, can we talk about for a Gen 2 group? I mean, I'm able to talk about them the same way as I talk about a Gen 5 group, you know? Like, there's something beautiful to be said about that and just showcases, yeah, they were definitely trendsetters in the terms of the choreographic demand of their sets in their routines because there hasn't been a situation where I'm like, oh, we can be forgiving because they're Gen 2. Like, I haven't thought that at all. I'm looking at the choreography as is. Yes, I'm tailoring it to the era of understanding the role that dance was in, but not in the degree of like using that as a crutch to justify the simplicity. It's not really that at all. If anything, I'm giving them the same concessions that I give ATs when it comes to singing live, you know? And I think that there's so much beauty, and those of you who are fans of Shinee, you take great pride in that. Like, truly, that is a very impressive thing. So for me, as somebody who's operating at a 2024 brain, who have seen a lot of information, a lot of dance analytics, have seen the progression of the West Coast, US movement quality, choreographic pros and cons that come with that, and then being able to see the K-pop scene grow in that way as well. I think there's a huge thing to be said for that. Like, these routines are important, and I think that they do a fantastic job of holding them down and showcasing the beauty of dance can be a focal point, and showcase the beauty of the art, not just you singing it. Like, I really love it. I do. Swinging it through, love the little touches, step touches, swinging it through. I like the choice where we go outside, framing outside to the inside, building the energy, allowed him to have his moment. We got a jump for me. It may be one too many jumps, but I understand that they're doing the hype up, build up the energy. It could be good for a concert, it could be good for a show. Sliding it through, really nice transition through it. Serious. I also feel like we're missing a couple of like the crosses before we jump back out. Just little details like that. Nothing crazy though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice how they go and they use the arms to kind of create a really nice way to allow the transition to be the focal point there. That was really nice. Dipping it through, single, and then they step it out, build out the energy, which is pretty good. The turns, yeah, they're turning a lot in this. Hitting it through. Now that right there, boom, it kind of felt like they were doing a little scuba. That is not what they were doing, but that kind of placement did feel that type of influence. Yeah, and then we're finishing out. It turns into a little add-on, having everybody do their own thing, but it feels like my three over here doing the same thing, and then we have somebody kind of going rogue over here. And then we finish. That little funky guitar. You see what I'm saying? Like, they're not doing funk, like they're not being funky with it. Does that make sense? Even though the track does have a bit of like the brass representation, I don't know if they're supposed to be funkier with it. That's a note too. I don't quite know that because I don't have a demo to look at. I just had the choreographer to look at. But there is quite a few like locking influenced moves that showcase, you know, I've seen that move done, but in a different authentic posture, I think is kind of my note. So I don't know if that's what we were supposed to do, and that's fine. And then we bow. So this would be a really nice like finale or like finish for intermission. This would be a good play song for that. In general, is this my favorite? It's not my favorite choreography, but it is definitely one where I am happy about the fact that I got to learn more about the choreographer by watching this, because naturally I want to make sure I understand a more full scope of who I'm looking at in these older ones specifically, to see what the choreographer was movement quality wise back then, to help me see the correlation. Also, nice seeing a little check-in on recent times for them too. So this was super great. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch. If you want to see more Shinee, I have it all over Patreon ready for you to watch and enjoy. If you want to be a part of the action, that's also a great place to go. You get full rights to a lot of things that I ask for votes on, like marathons. There's a reason why Shinee got picked, just because it was voted by y'all. So that makes me really excited to continue on, be able to discover new groups, but also be able to enjoy groups like Shinee in the process. If you are just a fan of Shinee, I want to hear from you. I want to hear about just discussions and dialogue and what makes them great, you know, and it makes me really excited to be able to meet new people in the process. Once again, I am Jess. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye!